Wow.
Hey, this is further than we've ever made it with a podcast.
Yeah.
Feels pretty good.
It's 7's a prime number.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. Indivisible by.
With liberty and justice for all.
Right. That's what I thought. That's what I was.
0.
This is getting closer to the ultimate sports fan season. Have you, NFL, college football, but not too many weeks ago, hockey started for the preseason, and you're a Blackhawks fan.
It's true.
They were really bad last year, right?
Yeah.
So
And the year before.
Really?
And a couple years before.
Okay, right. Hey, welcome to the Something Different podcast. I am one of your hosts, Marty Schmidt. I'm here with Pastor Craig, DK, Pastor Darik. How are you guys?
Really good.
We were just saying,
Good.
episode 7. Can you believe it? Something different. And our heartbeat every time is to give some insight into how to move the dial in your life for who you are and how God has kind of wired you. And so we've grabbed all kinds of leadership topics. We've talked about just spiritual topics. And today, I thought, let's talk money. Now, this is something I think a lot of people might get caught up on, wait, why is the pastor talking about money? But just real quick, from your experience, how often does money come up in your life?
Every day, probably.
That's a safe bet. Yep.
Yeah. So here's something that is a part of every day. Yeah. But then when the pastor talks about it, it's like, oh, yeah. And I've just really, I've quit being guarded about it. I've been more like, wait a minute. Mm-hmm. The whole reason you are guarded is because it means something. When money is a topic in scripture, when money is a topic of everyday life, it feels like there might be something to talk about in it. And I got to acknowledge on the front end, some of you, your financial reality is very desperate, very difficult, very hard. Others of you, you're managing it and stewarding it in such a way where you're comfortable. But my guess is even those of you who are comfortable, you're watching it and you want to get better. And it's interesting how quickly our mind can move to stress or anxiety or frustration. Is money one of the leading causes of divorce? Is that have you?
I feel like that's what I've heard.
I've heard it's number 2. Creeping up close, financial infidelity. And so, is wild. In the last week, I've had 2 crazy experiences with people living in completely different realities. One was I met a family that has recently moved to Ottumwa from New York, and they are homeless currently. They're native to Angola. Family of 6, 4 children, no place to stay, no food, that's no job. And so I'm just grateful. We have a church that's so generous. I was able to let's go shopping. I got them groceries for a week. We're in a conversation. We're working a path. Their 3 of their children got entered into school. And so, but that's one financial reality. Within the same week, I was out with a guy who owns his own business. And for some reason, he's taken a liking to me. And we were in Nashville, and he paid for every meal. And every place we went was way maybe once a year, Jenny and I go on a fancy date. And the places we went to were still, and I'm I look at the menu and I'm he's like, don't worry about it. I got it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just we went to the steak joint. The cheapest thing on the menu was a salad for $48. And I'm just who are right? Okay. So in one place, I'm wow, I've got so much for this family. I'm just yeah, let's figure it out. And the other place, I'm just feeling completely insecure about my reality. My guess is everyone is in a spot. And so what I want to do today is kind of generate a conversation of here's a bunch of things I think or have thought or would say or teach about money. But just before we start, who taught you guys about money, about finances? Did you have a mentor? Did you have a coach? Did you have a parent? Were you good at it? Were you bad at it? Share a little bit of your financial journey.
Yeah, I feel like probably both of us are a little drawn to it just naturally. I stumbled across Dave Ramsey right out of college, and no one had taught me anything. So yeah, listened to him a lot. Listened a lot from you, Pastor Marty, and learned a lot along the way there, and with Pastor Craig too. So yeah, I'd say those are probably my biggest influences.
Yeah. I grew up in a Dutch family, and Dutch kind of has a stereotype.
Okay.
True for my family of being very frugal with money.
Yeah.
For both my parents were definitely on the savers side. And so I learned, my parents were probably very middle class. And so learned how to do a lot and stretch things. And so I definitely kind of picked up some of those same habits. And then, I do have a finance degree. That's what I studied in college.
Let's go.
I don't know if that's always, I don't know what I remember from that. I just remember
was it like
credit,
spreadsheet economics kind of heavy for?
I had those classes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Well, just on the front end of this, like Proverbs 16 verse 16 says, how much better to get wisdom than gold, to get understanding is to be chosen rather than silver. So the idea behind this is not so much so that you can have more money, it's so that you can have more wisdom and more understanding, which I believe if we're good stewards with what God has entrusted us, he can entrust us with more, and yet we have to be learners. And so there's this like, for some of you, the spiritual aspect of all life is minimal, and yet you're intrigued by the topic of money. And others of you, you're thinking everything is so significant from a spiritual standpoint that money almost feels like the antithesis to what we would talk about. And so I'm just trying to marry these things that like it's core to who we are. It's a presidential election season. So everyone's trying to say who's better for the economy and I would just say like, predominantly the indicators are showing that financial realities are going to get tighter. Inflation we have seen. And so again, I'm not claiming what's the protocol. I'm not hired.
Yeah. I don't know. Some kind of disclaimer we should probably put in here so that if you follow some advice, we're not responsible.
Yes. If I make a stock pitch, buy Dr. Pepper. Don't you got to be careful with that stuff. The true story though, Lydia has well, now it's been 3 weeks, so she's changed her mind, but she loved Dr. Pepper. And she was asking me how to do investments. And I was like, well, what do you want to buy? And she's like, Dr. Pepper. And she's up 10% on her 2 shares of Dr. Pepper. At one point, she's like, I'd like to own 1% of the company. I'm like, you'd be doing quite well, babe. Like you'd be doing amazing. But all right, let's jump in. And this is before I have a list of like 25 things, whether we get through them all or not, that's fine. But like, this isn't on the list of the things, but God must come first. Yeah. There's no greater principle than this. And I think that's true of your time, your affection. I think it's time. It's also true of your money. Mm-hmm. And so I believe there's an aspect of people want to debate percentages and things like that. And should it go to a local church? Should it go to a not-for-profit? Should it just be generous? As for me and my household, this was crazy. I got a text from someone from church and they're like, hey, can I ask you a theological question? Have you gotten those ever? Like, yeah, right. And so now you text back with, yes, you can. And I immediately go to, but my answer will probably be, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of, and I wasn't sure where it was going. And they said, okay, we've done the math on our tithe. And I think it was like something. And then they're like, do you round up to the nearest dollar? Do you just keep it at the pennies? They're like, it feels weird. Like it ends in like a 2. Like, shouldn't we just up it to 5? And I'm like, whoa.
It was like Price is Right.
Yeah.
We put a 2 at the end of that number.
Yeah, right. Like, higher. Oh, such a great show. I skipped a lot of chapels. I went to a private college and it was like, do you go to chapel or watch the Price is Right? Price is Right one for me more often than not. And so, what I said is, if you get too caught up in what you're asking, like Jesus actually had a response. Should you tithe? Yes. And he was talking to the Pharisees. But like God is after the heart, not the letter of the law. And so if you get too caught up in the letter of the law with what we give, it's out of religious obligation, which was really something that Jesus came strikingly against over and over again. People who were doing it right, but the heart was far from it. And again, like, what does money get? It gets at your heart.
Yep.
And so I was just like, hey, I used that line. As for me and my house, we round up.
Yep.
I'd rather err on generosity, and really, I just want to keep my heart right. I don't want to have to like, oh no. And so, all right, here we go. Number one, I think one of the best things you can do with your money is track your money. Yep. If you don't do that right now, and let me set this up. Have you guys been talking about people who actually listen to this, which always blows my mind that like this is fun, but like there's an audience that's far younger than what I was anticipating. My mentor, Pastor Kevin, he's like, Marty, you will be influential to people who are 10 years older than you and 10 years younger than you. And I'm like, all of a sudden I had a 19-year-old come up and like, hey, been listening to the podcast. I'm like,
that's cool.
Whoa, right? You know? All right. So what do you use to track your money? Like just let's start helping some people out. I said, you need to track your money. How do you do it?
So we use, and I would say we use this in seasons that make sure that we're kind of in the right ballpark with it. We don't follow it to the letter of the law though. So it's Dave Ramsey's EveryDollar app,
which is free.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that helps us. Our story real quick is that I'm more of a saver and Becky is kind of a saver, but she's not as much of a saver as I am.
Yeah, you're Dutch.
Yes.
You're Dutch.
So
Craig Dutch.
For us, for me, having a budget was freedom to where we were okay to spend money. And for Becky, having a budget was freedom for Craig to feel okay for her spending money.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. But that isn't part of the marriage journey. I have made Jenny in the first year, I would say she cried probably on average 2 to 3 times a day, just because I didn't know how to be nice. And so I'd be playing PlayStation. Did you see they brought back NCAA football?
Yeah. Did you get it?
No.
Good job.
I know, like I've given up all video games, but I'm like, Lord, this could be for us. Like you could, like I'll name my.
Keep listening to him.
I know. So I've thought about buying it for Toby. Whatever
your college student needs.
Oh, I know.
His college is easy. He'll be fine.
Yeah, you done. But I would be playing, NCAA football, and she'd be on the couch looking at some magazine, and she'd be like, "Oh, this is cute," and I would not turn around. I would just say, "We can't afford it," and I said that to everything. She'd like, "Can we get a picture for the wall?" I was like, "No, like there's people who are starving in Africa." Had I been to Africa? No, I'd seen the promo. And so for me, like I would like that. She came from one way and I came from another way. And I mean, like I sinned so many times when in the area of money and so here we are, 21 years we've been married, give or take.
Good job.
I think. Yep. We'll just go with it. That's just now getting healed.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that when I talk to people, your first year of marriage sets a foundation, and all of those cracks of what didn't go, like, I mean, it has long lasting. Mm-hmm. You use EveryDollar as well though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So do I. Did you used to build your own spreadsheet?
No.
I have some amazing spreadsheets back when I was making $17,500 a year.
Amen.
And Jenny was a full-time student, and the student loans, $650 a month at that time.
Ooh, yeah.
And that's why I wanted a meal plan at Central College. I was like, Jenny, we wouldn't have to do dishes. Like, number two, this is so good.
Love it.
You need to track it. You also need goals. I just think like it's one thing to see where it went. It's another thing to kind of think through where it could go. And I those are two different things. I think before you can actually tell it where it's going to go, though, you have to have some history of where it's been, right? I can have a fictitious idea of like, here's how we're going to spend the next paycheck. But I didn't like to admit that there was an electrical bill or a water bill, right? And so as much as you have a goal of where you want money to go, you build on where it's been in some ways, if that makes sense. I think another thing that I just, some of these are just no brainers, but like you need to get out of debt.
Yeah.
And I am Dave Ramsey. I would call him above average. He's really good at helping you get out of debt. He's not I don't think he's the best at helping you build wealth. And so, he's never going to listen to that, and that's fine. But I think if you are in debt, he has a path that actually is quite, I mean, the track record's brilliant. However, I am one who says there is such a thing as good debt.
Mm-hmm.
A mortgage is debt, but it has a return value that's different than a vehicle debt, which is always depreciating. And I'm using fancy words here, but like for those of you who are geeked out about all things money, like those are two different kinds of debt. For me, college has been the big one right now. Like what is an education worth? And oftentimes this is the danger. We position the whole collegiate experience towards what job you're going to get trained so we can know how much money you're going to make. And I would say your life is more than the money you make and the job you hold.
That's right.
And there is a value that certain universities and colleges can add to who you are in character and person and how you will live your life as one who honors God and loves your neighbor. And go ahead and try to quantify that. Yeah. And I think there's other places and influences that will detract from your ability to become fully developed as a human being. And yes, you could collect good paychecks and have wealth, but if you're not honorable in how you live, what was that worth? And so there's everything in between. I'm talking about debt. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. Any kind of debts that you got super excited about paying off, or Craig's never had debt because he's so debt.
This is a Dave Ramsey conversation,
which is great. I am pro Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. No, we have mortgage, and the conversation, and Dave Ramsey say, pay it down as fast as you can. And I would say what our interest rate is at makes it so that I can take the money I have extra and invest it and get a higher rate of return than what I can pay down my mortgage debt. So,
man, I hope we get some emails there, because like I could be right.
But there is value. There is other intrinsic value of motivation of paying down your house.
When you went to college, either one of you, was the primary way to get T-shirts to sign up for a credit card?
Yes, but I knew better.
Oh, I did.
I did not.
I had so many credit cards. Oh my goodness. All right, let's keep going. This is wild. I was married for 3 years before I learned you could automate your bills. Like, not only like that, and obviously things have changed a lot because I've been married for 24 years. I don't know. But
that never changes every time.
Yeah, that's good. You snuck that in there. All right. So there's that, but then there's also, what is it called when they can like take the flex of like
budget billing?
Thank you. That thing.
It's huge.
Tell the 19-year-old who's listening to this right now, what is budget billing?
Well, like in the summer, your electric costs will probably be like $200, but in the winter it'll be like $40. So it evens those out across the 12 months of the year and makes it a more reasonable number throughout. So you know what to expect, and you're not like, well, this is different. You know it, it's set, and it's good. So, yeah.
I was in the spreadsheet zone doing all of this, and like I would be like so satisfied with how I got every number, crunched. And then the next month, the electric bill would be double, and I'm like, delete, like so frustrated.
Have you ever accidentally missed a credit card payment?
Jenny did in our first year of marriage, and I'm not saying that was
slid her under the bus like that.
Oh my gosh. Well, because like in our growing up, both our moms took care of the finances and paid the bills. And so she's like, okay, I'll do that. But like, I love math. I get geeked out about budgets. And when she was like, I'll do this, I was like, and boy.
Because here's my hot tip. If you ever miss a credit card payment, I've probably done that like maybe 3 or 4 times in the last 10 years. Call them and they waived it, and then they'll waive the interest rate that you were charged and the fee.
And the fee. Time. Yeah.
Sorry.
Just call and say like, hey, I was out of town. If you were really out of town. Like that was legitimately like mine. All right. Establish an emergency fund. That's a Dave Ramsey thing. what numbers have you thrown out for what is an ideal emergency fund?
If you don't have $1,000, Dave Ramsey says 1,000. That's like a pretty much everyone should try to save up to that good first goal. And then 3 months of living expenses is probably once you are at a place where you're somewhat solid with debt.
3 months living expenses is not 3 months of paychecks.
Correct. Yeah. If you're not making money, then you don't need to tithe because you're not making money. You don't need to save because you're not making money. You don't need to invest because you're not making money, but you need to get live.
A job.
Yes, you should probably get a job. But so 3 months of what you need to live on is probably the standard.
Yeah, that number has fluctuated with the number of children we have had. Has fluctuated with the living expenses have changed. When I went to college, my entire life, when I graduated from college, my entire life could fit in my Geo Metro. And so that's different, right? So I think it moves accordingly. One of the things I tell people is like, when you're creating your categories of expenses, one of them should be savings, which is a little counterintuitive, but like I say, spend to savings. Like for our family, we give to God first, and then we spend money on savings. That mindset of my savings is an expense is I think something that helped unlock some things when I was having my conversation with Toby and Lydia. Like they have jobs, and I'm like, okay, so here's what we would do. We would give some, and like, so that's kind of like an expense, even though it's not. And then we save some. That's another expense. And they're like, why am I like? But like that's how it happens. Most people, they pay all their bills, they do what they want, and then what's left over, they either save or give. And I just want to say, like, if that's how most of the world operates, how is most of the world operating? They've got. Let's look at this. Well, I don't know if I have the internet right now. What do you think the average consumer debt is? Like credit card debt. What is
just credit card?
Yeah, average credit card.
I guess like 8,000
debt.
I'm gonna guess a high number, 17.
Wow, DK, $8,674 is the amount. But here's the question: do you have 3 credit cards? So then does the number jump to like 24,000? And like, well, I have 0. So like, does that mean someone's walking around with 16? Yes,
for sure. Yeah.
Wow. Let's crush through some more of these. Establish known upcoming expenses. Talk us through what I just said.
Yeah, you've done a good job teaching us this. I feel like our staff are just like, there's things that you know you're going to spend on. Christmas, you're going to spend a lot, hundreds to thousands. I mean, you never know on Christmas. And so it's like you budget for those throughout the year, knowing what your end goal is going to be for that. So that applies to a number of different areas, but saving throughout the year for big things that you know you're going to pay for, but it's not every month.
Car, we're gonna need new tires in 6 months.
Yeah. So Joe Sangle's a guy who I really I was broke. Now I'm not. Somehow that's his website somewhere in there. But he's even got like a built-in spreadsheet called known upcoming expenses. And so like Christmas, yes. Then I put other gifts. Like we are invited to weddings. We're invited to graduation parties where our children have birthdays, nieces, nephews, okay, all of that. Vehicles is another one. I have vacation. I don't have a vacation every month, but our desire is to go on a vacation as a family to visit. And like that's extra gas money. And so like that's a known upcoming expense. We're saving up for a couch, and we finally hit it. And so that was like another category. And so, typically how this works is you come up with 10 medical is another one. I don't have a doctor thing right now, but I might. So every month we're setting aside, here's the honest number, $50 a month for medical realities, right? Well, that means $600 a year. Well, what if I have a bill for $1,000? Well, I'm 600 closer to covering that.
Does Amazon Prime Day count as one of these things you save towards?
Okay, so that's a great question. On my EveryDollar, I've gone both ways. I'm curious. I have subscriptions, right? Because like I've got Apple, I've got Spotify, we've got Amazon Prime, but Amazon Prime only comes once a year. I went through and I cut 2 different subscriptions recently. So for me, I got a built-in category called miscellaneous, and You know
It's
what
a
the
dangerous one.
you know yeah.
It's a catch-all.
I have miscellaneous and extra, and I got to try to come up with this.
Multiple.
Yeah. Like
Can I say one quick thing with this too?
No.
Okay. Well,
No, bring it.
I just think if you're listening and you're like super new in this, that's why I think that tracking thing you started with is so huge, because you're not going to know your known and becoming expenses until you track them. So like if you're like trying to set goal, like just start by getting information. Get that EveryDollar. It's free. And then you just start. You need to learn before you know how to activate that plan. So just start tracking. That's a great first step if you're totally new to all this.
Yeah. And this is the next step. We were talking about like, how do we help people? Like we have something called financial coaches. If you're a part of our bridge community, like we would love to like connect you. Not so like, oh, I hope they give more. Like literally they just want to sit down and like, they, like if you're like, help me create a budget. Like my daughter actually scheduled a meeting with me and I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. And then she's like, I'd like you to teach me how to do money. And I got to tell you, I love that. And you guys would be willing to chat about any of this.
Email us at hello@thebridgechurch.cc if you'd like a financial coach.
Hey, some people can't hear that. Hello at the Bridge Church.
No, did you see how close he was to the mic?
Oh, okay. All right. Let me stretch in the area of generosity. Is it biblical? What goes around comes around.
Yeah. Sure. You can find a verse for it, I'm sure.
Can I just share, like, I did the math on the way over here today. We have been given 7 vehicles and a motorcycle. Not a vehicle. That's more of like someone was trying to kill their pastor and they gave me a motorcycle. I learned how to drive it over curbs, not on roads. Yep. And it was just.
You should stick to riding a bike. That's what I.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
This gluteus maximus was not made for bike riding.
Wow.
I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Did this just get a PG-13 rating?
Yes, it did bump it up a little bit.
Gluteus maximus. It's the biggest muscle in your body. You know what the strongest muscle is?
Tongue.
Heart, I think. It can do the push.
I I said tongue.
I thought jaw, but yeah.
Oh, it is.
Maybe that's right.
Yeah, and they're connected. I don't know. We have given away 5 vehicles.
Yeah.
And 1 motorcycle. The same motorcycle that I was given. It did not live with me.
Yep.
And I'm not like, never when we gave a vehicle away, it was like, oh God, what are you gonna do now that like we've emptied our savings account 2 different occasions. I'm not asking you to do this. I'm just saying like, my number one money principle is this. Like I try to honor God the best I can, and I ask Him what He would have me do.
Yeah.
And so I think stretch yourself in generosity. We live in a time where many people operate with a scarcity mindset. And so it creates hoarding and greeding. And all of those things are counter kingdom.
Yeah.
Our God is a generous God. For God to love the world that He gave. And I just think there's so many principles. Blessed is the one who gives, like it's better to give than to receive. Like Christ, like the over and over again. And I would just say like, take chances on being generous.
100%.
I might have shared this in a sermon recently. Lydia and I, we recently went to a movie, and I just noticed there's kids who are a part of a what's the word I'm looking for? The agency, shelter. And so these are kids who are displaced from their families, from a home for various different reasons, very rarely their choice. And I see, honestly, I went and got a large popcorn, and then I paid for the large popcorn, and I got Lydia a drink. And they said, well, now we can give you a small popcorn. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll take that. And then when they're charging me, this was so beautiful. They said, hey, did you know you have a free medium popcorn? And I'm like, well, it's too late to use that, right? So I go back into the theater, and then I was like, I'm going to need a Coke. I just I shouldn't do it. But so I went back out there, and I saw this group of kids, and I just said, hey, I have a medium popcorn. Like, would you want that? And they were kind of like hesitant. And I'm like, well, I'm getting it for you. So would you want butter on it or not? And it was that whole moment of just like, come on. And I was like, what do you guys really want? And so one kid kind of like, I like Swedish fish. And I was like, yeah, get that. And the kid's like, could I get cotton candy? I'm like, yes. And like, I'm pointing, and the one girl's like, no. And I'm like, if I said slushy, would you get excited? And like, she's like, yeah. And so like, got them all slushies, right? Like the movie, time with my daughter, great, but like a blip.
Yeah.
That opportunity just to like be in the spot. And this is why I think it's so important to actually kind of work on your money.
Yeah.
The better you are at covering your money, the more you're able to be generous. I'm watching people miss callings on their life because they got so jacked up in their debt that God has a call on their life that they can no longer afford because of decisions. And I'm passionate about this. And so I think you got to learn what's new for you. So I got a new iPhone. But by that, I mean, I got a new iPhone for me. It was an 11. It wasn't the newest iPhone. I think you got to get wise with timing your purchases. There is such a thing as called delayed gratification.
Come on.
I think, Amazon Prime Day, like it's worth waiting for Prime Day to see if it could be a better deal. You have a list, right? Craigslist. There's lots, it's crazy. eBay, like there's ways to like accumulate things at go ahead. Yeah.
I call it I date purchases. And so
date purchase?
Yeah. Meaning I keep the idea that I think I want that. And then if I still want it,
like
3 months later, then I'm more apt to, I got a couple I'm dating right now.
Yeah. I think it's super important to maintain what you got.
Yeah.
Legitimately, we inherited a riding lawnmower, which is awesome. But like, I called a friend. I'm like, do you change the oil in these? Because I've had it for like 3 years. They're like, and they're like, have you sharpened the blade? And I'm like, no, but we got this cool mohawk every time we mow, and then it was like, okay, well, like let's invest a little bit into this mower we have. So Jenny got a brand new vacuum. It's Shark is by far the best like carpet vacuum. Like, you can quote me on that. I'm not paid
financial advice here.
No. But
we actually have our vacuum in waiting. So clearance aisle at Walmart.
You're dating
best
it?
Place ever. No, it's here.
Oh yeah.
But it's boxed up. So when our current vacuum breaks down, we don't have to pay full price. We've already got the clearance.
Oh, look at you. Yeah. But I think we are called stewards. And so like operating in health with what you already have, I think you need to revisit finances. I'm just spitting these out. These aren't, I'll kick out, here's my 25 list or whatever in the show notes. But if you are married and you don't have your money aligned, can I just say like, whatever the reasons were, there is a spiritual reason why you would put them together. And I just think if your money is where your heart is, Jesus statement, and my money's here and her money's there, then our hearts are divided in what is supposed to be unified. I think you need to stay motivated. I think you need to allow someone to speak into your finances. This is one of the greatest things that I've ever did. I had someone, I said, I felt really great about money. Bridge is like 2 years old. I'm like, we're tithing, but like it was always tight. And someone came in, he goes, I love that you're tithing, but you're kind of stupid with the other 90%. And I was like, whoa. But like, I felt like as long as I tithe, I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you could do other parts of it right. I think think long-term, not short-term. That was a whole podcast we're going to work on. Thinking fast and thinking slower.
Yeah.
And money is one of those areas, think slower.
Yeah.
If you are playing the lottery, if you are gambling on sports, I would just say like that get rich quick is a dangerous slope. And I'd just be really cautious of that. So much more I wish I could say. I do think EveryDollar was hopefully the takeaway. A financial coach or letting someone speak into your finances, another one. Yeah. Any last thoughts on finances?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just gave such a primer that it's hopefully, it does entice you to have a conversation with somebody else and say, I need help. And for sure, ask the Lord for help and just tell him where this is a place we need help in from you, and discipline and courage and that. So, yeah. Because it is a place of hope and a place of pain. So we realize that.
And it's a place of discipline.
Yeah. Yes.
You will not fall into better stewardship. It just like I can't accidentally develop biceps. Like there's work that has to be done. But I just, if you're younger, if you're a young parent, I was talking to your wife, Rachel, and Hallie, and I was telling them about You Promise. And You Promise is this thing where like on our phone, we have the You Promise app and we have the Walmart app. So Jenny puts stuff in the cart on the Walmart app, and then she goes to You Promise, opens up the Walmart button there, and a percentage of that goes into a college savings. And I'm just like, I wish I knew that 10 years ago, but like, wow, where could you guys be? Like, yeah, it's $1 here, $2 there, $1 here, $2 there. Yeah, but your children are young. Like that's 50, 100, 150, 200 that then also is growing in a place of potential more growth. And so, wow, that was something different. Hey, if you got questions about any of this, maybe we can pick them up on another episode. But thank you. And thank you. That's the Something Different number 7.